right, guys, that was Ryan. Told me we didn't have sound, so I was asking him if we have sound, and he hung up the phone. So I don't know what in the hell we're doing here. I'm just going to start over. If I had more time, guys, I would have better words. I know that I would have better words. Now, I'm not going to apologize for what I'm about to say. I'm just going to concede to you guys in advance. If I had more times, I would not use the words I'm about to use. But we're friends here. We've all agreed to get together. We're fight fans. We're here late night. We're paying customers. Let's just speak openly amongst each other. There is never a time in my career as a fan, as a viewer, when I'm okay with a guy getting screwed. Never. And you saw it tonight twice. Moreno obviously beat Figueiredo. Figueiredo won a decision. He lost the fight. He won a decision. Ciryl Gane obviously beat Francis Ngannou. Ciryl won the fight, but he lost the decision. I'm not okay with that. That is wrong. And if I had a magic wand I could wave over it, or some kind of a crystal ball to go back in time, and I was the one given the power, I would fix that. I am not okay with what happened. But if there was ever a time when we're going to throw the screw job finish on somebody, it might as well have been tonight. Collectively, the 4 participants in the 2 title fights laid an egg. And I'm not speaking about the performance. That is one commodity. As a viewer and as a fan, I have the right and I have an expectation, and this industry has a standard. And those guys went against it. All 4 of them get equal blame for the lack of anticipation, build-up, and promotion going into their contest tonight. It was incumbent on them. It was on their shoulders. And all of them got together and did nothing. And it was a terrible miss. I use that to start as a jumping off point, because my original premise was, if there's ever going to be a night when we're going to pull the screw job in, I'm glad it was tonight. I'm of course never glad when it happens. If it's going to happen, I'm glad it's tonight, because what in the hell do you want to see Moreno do next? In all fairness, what do you want to see Moreno do? He's been a complete dud. There is nothing even good about his fighting style except for his offense. Oh boy, is his offense on point. His stance is wrong. His motion is wrong. Do not want to be an aspiring fighter and go watch Moreno and then go do it. I mean, some bitch fights with his hands right here. It's like he's peeking out from under a blanket, just making sure you have all the good stuff there. Why not just put your hands down? If your hands are not in front of your face, why not just put them down? It's infuriating to watch, but his offense is good. I got to give him that. I mean, he's quick. He's tough as an old leather boot. There's a lot of compliments I could give him, but world champion, come on, man. No. And aside from that, what do you want to see him do next? If he was grabbing that torch and he was going to run with it, I'm asking a question. I'm not answering. I'm being a dick about it. I get it. I'm being a jerk. But I still like you to answer the question before you call me a jerk, or even after you call me a jerk. I would like an answer to the question. What is it you wanted to see him do next? If you have to go watch a press conference and it's going to be with Moreno or Figueiredo, who would you rather see on stage? If you got to watch a walkout between those two, who would you rather be? If you got to hear a post-fight interview between those two, who would you rather be? And you're not the ones I'm shouting at. But don't point the finger back at me either. Go look at the whole rest of the 125-pound division. If I was to ask any one of you right now, we'll just do it by majority. Just raise your hand. You tell me who should fight Figueiredo next. None of your hands went up. None of you are yelling somebody's name. There's no unit. We don't know who's next. That division has done a terrible job, but why wouldn't it? The 2 guys at the top of the bill did no media for their own fight, which was on pay-per-view. If we can't count on the #1 contender and the champion to do anything, and when I tell you they did nothing, these guys didn't send out so much as a tweet. These guys were borderline dishonest. They have an agreement, and that agreement comes with an expectation. I look at them differently. I can't call them crooks. I want to. I can't call them that. But this industry has a standard, and they did not live up to it. So, of course, the number 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 guy aren't. They're looking at their leaders. So, of course, we don't know who Figueiredo's going to fight next, and, of course, we don't care. Figueiredo did not win the fight tonight. The dude with his hands down won the fight tonight. But he lost the decision. There was no way to take in tonight's main event without asking yourself at every turn, in between every exchange, in between the trading of positions, and in between the rounds, what would happen if that were Jon Jones? There was nobody in that ring tonight that could hold Jon Jones's jock. And none of you think so. There is nothing that Ciryl Gane has, and Ciryl Gane won the fight tonight. He clearly won the fight. He won 4 out of 5 rounds of the fight. Not even close, but he lost the decision. And thank goodness he did. Because as poor of a job as Figueiredo and Moreno did, the more responsibility is on later in the night, which is the main event, and Ciryl and Francis did nothing. They double-crossed us fans. It's called marking out for your own gimmick. When you think you're the biggest and the toughest and people are telling you that you're the best and you're the biggest draw, those guys are never smart enough to get into the actual cage and just turn your head left and turn your head right as the guy in the shark suit named Bruce is reading out your names and make sure that that building is full, which it was not, because they did a terrible job and it was borderline dishonest. But they thought, because the little circle that they run around in and people want their little autograph when they walk into the hotel lobby, they thought that that could expand into something bigger. These guys did a terrible job. But either way, if we have to live with one of them next, the best salesman in the world, which quite frankly in this space is me, I cannot package you a competitive match between Jon Jones and Ciryl Gane. It would be a massacre. Ciryl Gane was taken down 3 times tonight and held there for 8 minutes tonight by a guy who's never wrestled. Ever. Not one match. Doesn't own a singlet. Ciryl Gane was taken down repeatedly tonight and held for 8 minutes by a guy who does not hold a belt in jiu-jitsu and has never entered a grappling competition. How am I possibly supposed to package him up and tell you he could deal with Jon Jones, who many believed could be an Olympian, who beat several Olympians and who won a national championship himself? How could I possibly do that? Okay, great. Well, that's only part of the fight because Jon's got to get him there first. Now, make no mistake, Jon's going to get the guy there. But okay, Jon's got to. You have one non-wrestler who just got out-wrestled, absolutely dominated in the wrestling department by another guy who's never wrestled. Jon Jones has been quiet for 2 years. He's talking about I gotta lift some weights and I gotta drink my protein and watch me do all these pull-ups. Right? He wants to put on some size. Jon Jones is going to be the most talkative guy in the world tonight, aside from me. Jon Jones's balls that he lost 2 years ago, he just found his balls tonight. Trust me when I tell you this. Jon is going to be chomping at the bit. If I was to put my glasses on and hold my phone, I bet you I could go to Twitter right now, and Jon's already going at it. All that courage that Jon lost, he might as well have gone and seen the Scarecrow because he's going to have his courage back because there was nothing in that cage tonight that could touch him. Ciryl versus, right, if the decision would have gone to the guy who won the fight, which is Ciryl. Ciryl versus, oh my God, Jon would be a 5-1 favorite. They would not sell out that arena. It would be another thing where people go, oh my gosh, I just want to see Jon lose and this isn't the guy to do it. Can't we bring Stipe in? Can't we do anything? That because of the stand-up. Gane could hit Jon with his best stuff. He can't put him down. And no one's going to debate that they could wrestle with Jon Jones. So how do you sell that he could beat him? Okay, you know what? Thank goodness Francis actually does have knockout power. He might look slow as molasses moving uphill. He might not have a very good gas tank, but he did push all 5 rounds, whether he felt good or not. He did take some good shots, whether he liked it or not. And Francis can knock you out. You can sell that. You can sell what I just said. Not to mention, it fits the criteria of what Jon doesn't want to face. Jon has only told us one thing that gives him reservation, which is the size. That's fair by Jon. He's moving up weight classes. He's moving up 65 pounds. It's very fair that Jon was honest with the audience and said, I'm a little bit reserved here, and I want to do a couple of things so that I can deal with that bigger size. So we know the one thing that Jon has said does bother him is the size. Francis provides that. Francis does have the knockout power. Francis showed some good wrestling defense against Stipe. I mean, we're going to have to work hard here. But we can get into the kitchen. We can pull some footage. We can put some highlight reels out. And you can build Francis just a little bit. Then you come out with the story that they're all going to start massaging this story about his knees, and his knee was bad, so let me just get my knee better. And what they need to do is say, no, the knee needs surgery. So I'm going to be out for a minute. Hey, Stipe, come take care of Jon Jones. Your greatest hope and possibly your only hope of stopping Jon is Stipe Miocic. He's too fast, he's too goddamn tough, and he's not scared. Very, very hard to watch tonight's fights and come to any conclusion other than one of you is going to leave champion. Turned out the guy that won didn't get a leave champion. Neither of you is the best. Jon Jones is the best. It was stunning to see, and I've talked to you guys about this. I would never kick a guy when he was down. By the way, I'm talking to you in a very tough tone tonight. But in fairness to me, how? The two guys that I'm giving a hard time, one, the two other guys I'm giving a hard time to, get to be champion. The only ones that lost tonight was us. We did not get the build-up ahead of time. We did not get any action delivered to us in there. We didn't even get anything coming on the back end. So I feel as though I've got every right to be a little bit critical. But I did talk to you guys very openly about Ciryl Gane and the misrepresentation of the numbers. So Ciryl Gane has a beautiful record, and I do not take that from him. And he should still be undefeated. He really should. This was not right. Ciryl had a statistic that he had never been taken down. He has spent a total of 0 time on the canvas. And I came and talked to you guys and said that statistic is going to be very beautiful going into a fight with Jon Jones, who's got the greatest and nastiest ground and pound in the sport. It's going to be a very helpful stat if he had ever taken on a wrestler. If Ciryl had fought Cain Velasquez, if Ciryl had fought Stipe Miocic, if Ciryl had fought Daniel Cormier, I could go through the list. If Ciryl had fought anybody who wrestles in MMA fights consistently, it'd be a beautiful stat. But he had the stat because he was in there with absolute straight stand-up fighters, and the thing that he does well is stand-up fighting. You go through the list, I want to take anything away for Ciryl. Ciryl should be the champion of the world, but in all fairness, if you go through his list, nobody has ever had an easier path to a unification match in history at the heavyweight class than Ciryl. They were handpicked. And not literally. There was no home cooking. Nobody thought Ciryl was going to be in this spot. Ciryl got in this spot because Francis made a mistake and elevated him to this spot. But Ciryl, if you go back and look at the matches that he had, there is nobody that's ever been in that same spot at the headline of a pay-per-view, walking in there with an interim belt, going for the undisputed title, who's ever had more favorable opponents. He was dominated in wrestling by a guy who has never wrestled. That's the takedown. Staying down, being held and kept there is where grappling comes in. But the guy that did that to him for 8 minutes has never grappled competitively. All done in the practice room. It was terrible. You could have taken the best of both of those guys, put it together into some kind of a mythical hybrid, and Jon Jones will stomp that person out for 25 minutes. So now we got some work to do. But thank goodness, Francis versus Jon, we can make that work. Francis still has a chance. We have a chance that we're going to see Jon get beaten. That's what Jon needs in his career. Jon doesn't want to hear that. He gets very sensitive, but that's why Jon's not selling out arenas. That's why Jon's not making money on paper. He just got too good. Happened to Roy Jones. It's not fair. Roy Jones, the best boxer of the 90s. Nobody would dispute that, including other boxers within the 90s. Roy Jones made the least amount of money because everybody knew how the story was going to end. The one thing that Jon needs to feed his pocketbooks, not his sensitive little ego, but for his pocketbooks, is a belief that he's going to get beat. And Francis does bring that belief because of the power. Now, we saw it's got to happen in the first round. We saw a guy that isn't a quarter of the speed of Jon Jones or the length of Jon Jones getting to him repeatedly. So it's very likely to not go well. But there's always that power chance, and we need that as fans. We are owed something. We are owed much more than what the 2 title fights, 4 contestants gave to us, which was nothing to look forward to, no story, and nothing on the back. In fact, if I had $1 for every time between the 4 interviewed fighters by Joe Rogan who said sorry, I believe I'd have $4. I think sorry came out each one of them. I'm really sorry about tonight. Bunch of babies, man. What a bunch of babies. We'll see how they play this. Look, 125 pounds is a mess. But before you blame the other 25-pounders, right, everybody in the world looks to their leaders. Your leader's whoever's got the belt. And the next guy that you're going to think you need to emulate and copy is whoever the number 1 contender is. Whoever's getting the most opportunity, you are rightfully and psychologically going to believe is doing things right. If you copy them, 25 is going to be abolished. There's nothing going on down there, and it's 100% those guys' fault. Fault used to be spread around to the promoter, to the media, to the fans. We all shared in it, but we have now given the 25-pounders their due. We have now spotlighted 125 pounds. And the 2 guys at the top of the bill stabbed us in the back. Now you've got the heavyweights. The guy who won the decision lost the fight and is going to be drawing into the most dynamic, longest, fastest, freshest heavyweight on the scene. But he's got a leg injury. He told us he had a leg injury. He even wore a neoprene wrap on it. Boy, that leg must really be hurt. He needs to use that. He needs to buy time. He needs to get Jones in there with Stipe. I do believe that the neoprene brace and all the stories and rumors got this fake knee injury. Come on, guys. At any rate, I do believe that story was planted for a reason. The reason is to get a break, to take your oars out of the water. And when you're a prize fighter, much like you guys, you don't want a break. You love to use the word vacation, but the truth is you need to get paid. You want to go to work. Let's get it over now. Let's get that much closer to retirement and not be coming back here. In all fairness, a prize fighter works the same way, unless he's calculated. The only hope that we have for fans, based on what we saw tonight, based on the letdown that these 2 pulled, and the 2 title fights, is if Francis takes his oars out as a way of starving Jon out, which will happen at some point, and get Stipe in there with him. Stipe is the only one that can beat Jon Jones. I don't know that Stipe would. That's between those boys. He's the only one that could. Because he's not too big. He's not too slow. If he goes down, he's not going to lay there like a turtle because he's pushing the better part of 300 than he is 200. He's dog tough. He knows how to wrestle. It checks a lot of boxes. Common opponents within Daniel Cormier, who they both had better pray to God in heaven above stays retired. But one thing, and Daniel might be guilty of this too, but I assure you for Jon Jones, between now and the media cycle on Monday, Jon's going to find those balls of his that he lost.